Hello, everyone. Tonight we are stepping into a place where time doesn't flow. It pools like stagnant water around the roots of a jungle that hasn't blinked in 100 million years. You are surrounded by chirps, clicks, distant rustlings that might be wind or might not be, and something is watching you. Still, focused. You haven't seen it yet, but you feel it. You feel it like a dry itch in your own eye, as if your body is warning you to blink while you still can. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to know where and when you're listening from. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle through damp leaves, the ground beneath you soft and deceptive, like breathing fabric. There's a kind of heaviness to this part of the jungle, like it remembers too much. The trees here are older, more gnarled. Some of them seem to lean inward, creating a funnel of shadows that pull you deeper. Vines hang like ropes cut from a gallows. It's the kind of place where you whisper without meaning to, because you don't want to wake whatever still lives here. Something just shifted. You didn't see it, but you heard the tiniest hush. Not a branch snap, not a leaf fall, just a hush, as if a breath was held. Yours, no, something else. A watcher. You glance around, nothing but green, and yet the back of your neck starts inventing shapes, shadows where no shadows should be. You blink quick and dry, and that's when you realize something terrifying. Something out here doesn't blink back. Now, statistically blinking is pretty universal across vertebrates. Your average human blinks about 15 to 20 times a minute. Even fish, frogs, and owls have their own version of eyelid mechanics, membranes, wipes, protective films. It's how we hydrate, refresh, and sometimes avoid eye contact with our tax returns. But you, brave little hominin, are being watched by something that gave that up. Voluntarily. You keep walking, because the only thing worse than being watched is looking like you know you're being watched. The canopy above filters moonlight in long threads. Sometimes it catches on your skin, painting stripes that move when you don't. And just up ahead, beyond a curtain of moss and silence, is a narrow clearing. You hesitate, one foot forward, the other reconsidering its life choices. Then you see it. At first, it's just a shape, almost human height, hunched, like a withered tree stump someone shoved legs under. The body's long and narrow, feathers or maybe spines breathe faintly in the breeze. But it's the head that arrests you, motionless, oversized. And those eyes, my God, the eyes, they gleam faintly, wide, alert, open. No nictitating membrane, no eyelid, not even a twitch of the pupil. The animal doesn't move, not a ripple of breath, but you feel it watching. Not with curiosity, not with hunger necessarily, with commitment. You are a passing thought in its cathedral of stillness, and still you can't look away. You start counting. 5 seconds, 10, 20. You blink. It does not. 30, 40. You blink again faster. Your eyes water in protest. The dinosaur simply waits. And that's when you realize you are not the first to fail this challenge. Probably not the 100th. Some paleontologists have theorized that certain theropods, particularly in dry, arid environments, evolved non-blinking eyes with exposed scleras to reduce the need for membrane movement that could risk drying during sandstorms or heat waves. But this species, it took that adaptation and said, sure, but what if I also make it terrifying? You crouch low, not because it helps, just because it feels like maybe if you're smaller, you're less worthy of its attention. Spoiler, you're not. It's still staring, a statue of intention. This isn't a predator in motion, it's an ideology with claws. Somewhere off to your left, a smaller animal, a lizard or primitive mammal, maybe pokes its head from the underbrush. It sees the creature, freezes, and then bolts. Not because it was chased, but because it was seen. That's all it took. The dinosaur never even flinched. Its presence is a verb. You understand now that in this jungle, motion isn't death. Being watched is. Here's your odd fact for the night. The human record for the longest time someone has gone without blinking during a staring contest is over an hour. But he did it in a room with air conditioning and eye drops. You're in a mosquito-choked heat trap with something that hasn't blinked since before mammals had belly buttons. You stand there for a long moment, unable to outstare the ghost. You think maybe if you close your eyes just once, just for a second, it'll break the spell. So you do. And when you open them again, it's gone. No noise, no crack of twig, just absence, which somehow feels worse. Historians still debate whether this species used its eyes as tools of communication, as weapons of dominance, or simply as an accident of horrifying evolution. Some propose that it might have even become a kind of legend among its own contemporaries, one dinosaur becoming mythic for simply never looking away. You stand there now, blinking furiously, trying to moisten the sting in your eyes and realize something strange. You miss the stare, because now you have to wonder where it went. The clearing ahead is strange, too quiet, too perfect. You're used to the jungle throwing itself at your senses with all the grace of a marching band, falling down a hill, rustling leaves, frogs that sound like they're mocking you, insects conducting whatever godless orchestra they belong to. But here, just a few paces beyond the last vine, all that noise dies like someone hit mute. The air flattens. The light doesn't change, but it feels like twilight. Welcome to the clearing. The edges are lined with thick bramble and high ferns, a natural fence no creature wants to brush against. You step forward and notice the ground. It's pressed flat, no grass, no sprouts. Only soft earth tamped down like a ceremonial path. You're standing in the kind of place where rituals happen. Or used to. And in the center of it all, still as a forgotten memory, is the figure. It hasn't moved since you saw it earlier. But somehow its presence dominates this open space like a mountain, staring down a field. Prey animals skirt the edges, never crossing the invisible circle drawn by its gaze. Even the insects, which usually treat all surfaces equally, including your unfortunate forehead, seem to detour around it. A fly buzzes near, pauses midair, and veers left like it remembered an appointment elsewhere. You crouch behind a fallen log. Not to hide, nothing could hide from eyes like that. It's more a gesture of politeness, like bowing in church or whispering in libraries. You're in the presence of something that demands reverence. The dinosaur doesn't move, but you start to see it differently now. The shape isn't just still, it's intentional. There's no sag in its posture, no fidgeting, no twitch of tail or limb. You've seen predators lounge like they own the world. This is different. This creature isn't lounging, it's guarding. You scan the clearing. Nothing else dares approach the center. A pair of small ceratopsians appear at the far end, their squat, beaked faces twitching as they sniff the air. One of them steps forward, nudging into the border of the circle. Then it stops, lifts its head, looks directly at the watcher. A beat, another. Then it turns almost sheepish and shuffles back into the underbrush like a teenager caught trying to sneak out past curfew. The unblinking one never moves. There's a theory among behavioral paleontologists. Yes, that's a real thing, that some dinosaurs use spatial control rather than active aggression to claim territory. Instead of chasing others off, they just stood there. Still. Present. Dominant through unwavering surveillance. And that's what you're witnessing now, the stare-as-barrier technique. A psychic fence built not with teeth or claws, but with intent. Of course, it probably had teeth too. But those were just backup. And here's tonight's delightful oddity. Some modern birds, like the Eurasian magpie, have been observed performing fake funerals for their dead, gathering around a fallen friend and watching silently. Scientists aren't sure why. Respect curiosity. A moment of stillness, no one knows. But it makes you wonder, what if this clearing is that not a trap, not a nest, but a graveyard? Or worse, a memory? Historians still debate whether this species lived in solitude or acted as a sentinel for a larger group. Fossilized nesting sites show conflicting clues, some filled with broken shells, as if abandoned, others with pristine arrangements suggesting something carefully guarded. The debate remains unresolved, and tonight you've stumbled into the argument. Because now, after 30 long minutes of watching nothing happen, you notice something tiny shift. Not the dinosaur, the dirt beneath it, ever so gently like the earth itself is breathing. You edge closer just a step or two. The watcher doesn't react. But now you see what you missed before. The body isn't alone. Half buried in the shadow behind it is another shape. Smaller, softer, like it never finished growing. A juvenile, no more than that, a corpse. Still, partial. Feathers gently ruffled by breeze. The guardian isn't guarding territory, it's guarding someone. Suddenly, the clearing makes sense. The prey animals aren't avoiding it out of fear. They're respecting it, mourning it, honoring it. It's not a battlefield, it's a vigil. You step back quieter than before. Not because you're afraid now, but because you feel like an intruder at a wake. The dinosaur watches you still, or watches nothing, or watches everything. It's hard to tell. But you understand now that this creature doesn't need to move to act. Its presence is action. Its vigil is defense. You want to leave, but you hesitate. What kind of species holds funerals? What kind of animal chooses not to blink while mourning? It isn't human, but it feels close. A gust of warm air ripples through the trees carrying a distant scream predator, or wind, you can't be sure. But it breaks the spell long enough for you to slip back into the underbrush. You take one last look. The dinosaur hasn't moved. The juvenile hasn't moved. The clearing hasn't changed. But you have. You start walking again, faster this time, letting the jungle swallow you. Every rustle now feels like a goodbye. Every shadow like a pair of eyes watching, but not in the way they used to. You blink, and behind you something doesn't. You're further down the trail now, though trail is generous. It's more like a suggestion of absence between trees. The leaves slap at your arms like annoyed cats. You push through, half expecting the forest to close behind you like a throat swallowing a memory. But it doesn't. It just watches, quietly. That creature back in the clearing, you can still feel it. Not its gaze anymore, something deeper. The sense of being evaluated without judgment. Like a museum statue waiting for you to understand why it's there. You stop at a creek. The water runs clear and fast, carving through roots like time through stone. You kneel to splash your face. Not because you're hot, though you are, but because your eyes ache. A dry, itchy soreness like you've stared at a screen too long. You blink, hard, and again. Because now you're thinking about the impossible. What if it can't blink? You recall a dusty exhibit sign from some long-ago museum trip. Many dinosaurs, like birds, lacked traditional eyelids. Most used a nictitating membrane, a thin, clear film that wipes across the eye from the side like a ghostly windshield wiper, useful for moisture and protection. But the creature in the clearing, that eye didn't have a film. It had nothing. And here comes the science bit. Some dinosaurs, especially maniraptorans, close cousins to birds, likely evolved increasingly exposed forward-facing eyes. Good for depth perception, even better for emotional intimidation. But there's limited fossil evidence for soft tissues like eyelids. In rare cases, preserved orbital impressions suggest variations. One specimen from Mongolia showed ridges consistent with exposed sclera and an absence of eyelid musculature. So the theory goes at least one lineage of dinosaurs evolved not only to lose the ability to blink, but to make that a feature. You remember how dry your own eyes feel? How vulnerable it makes you? How hard it is to focus when you want to blink and can't? But that thing didn't blink once. Which raises a question so uncomfortable you immediately regret thinking it. What else didn't it need? Sleep, fear, regret. A twig snaps behind you. Not loud, but deliberate. You turn slowly. It's not the same creature, but it's the same type. Smaller, sleeker. Its body almost quivers with tension like a violin string stretched to screaming. Its head is cocked slightly, eyes locked onto yours, and, yep, wide open. Still, its gaze isn't predatory, it's diagnostic. Like it's scanning your soul for weak points. You wonder if it sees the parts of you you try not to show anyone. The insecurities, the lies you tell yourself before bed. It steps closer, 1 foot at a time, no sound. You don't move. You've learned now that's part of the game. Movement breaks the spell. Presence is the spell. It circles you, not hunting, not afraid, just studying. As it moves into better light, you finally see them, its eyes. Huge, glossy, ringed with faint concentric patterns like tree rings. They shimmer slightly, as if reflecting not just the world around it, but the one inside it. There's no membrane, no eyelid. But here's the kicker. The eye winks not by closing, but by shifting something inside the cornea. A muscular ripple that clears and hydrates without breaking the surface. It moistens its own eye without ever blinking. You almost laugh. Of course it does. Birds do weird things too. The crested auklet, for instance, produces a citrus-scented oil that repels parasites. Scientists still argue whether it's cologne or bug spray. Nature loves multitasking. So why not a non-blinking hydration ripple? Historians still debate whether this ripple tech evolved for desert survival or nocturnal vision. Some say it's the jungle thick air, endless moisture, too much risk, and momentary blindness. Others argue it's about social dominance. In some ancient species, the inability to look away might have meant absolute control. You and the creature stare at each other for what feels like years. You blink. It doesn't. You blink again on purpose this time. It blinks internally, and then it leaves. Just like that. Not fast, not slow, just gone. Into the vines. As if the moment never happened. You're left alone again, standing in a puddle of your own heartbeat. The water in the creek seems louder now. The sky dimmer. And all you can think is, what does the world look like when you never shut your eyes? No breaks, no darkness. No moment of silence between images. Just all of it at once forever. It would drive a human mad. It would make you feel like a god. You sit down suddenly overwhelmed. Because this isn't just about biology anymore. This is about purpose. What kind of creature sacrifices comfort for perception? What kind of mind trains itself to endure what others can't even glimpse? You close your eyes just for a second. Inside your eyelids, the afterimage of that stare glows like an ember. It won't fade. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. The night deepens and your eyes sting. Not from fear, though, that lingers in the soft tissue of your chest, but from sympathy. Your own blinking has become hyper-conscious now. Every reflex feels like cheating. A weakness. You blink and think, it wouldn't. And you're right, it wouldn't. That thing back in the clearing and the one at the creek, they don't blink because they can't afford to. Evolution made that choice for them. Or maybe, just maybe, they made it for themselves. The path you're walking winds uphill now over gnarled roots and through stone-cracked ridges that weep with moss. It's quieter here. Even the frogs have given up their usual nightly rant. You pause to rest on a stone slick with lichen, and that's when your eyes finally rebel. They itch. Burn. Your eyelids flutter compulsively. The air is humid, but it's not helping. You rub your face, press your knuckles into your sockets, and think, how long could I go without blinking, really? The answer, not long. The average human can keep their eyes open for about 30 seconds without discomfort. Trained individuals, actors, soldiers, particularly unhinged street performers can stretch that to minutes. But eventually, the cornea begins to dry out, oxygen flow drops, and pain sets in. The eyelids twitch trying to force the issue, and in extreme cases, vision blurs. Hallucinations creep in. So what about that dinosaur? If it couldn't blink, how did it avoid blindness? You remember the eye ripple, the internal muscular hydration trick, but there's more to it. You're almost certain now. You fish through the folds of your damp bag, pulling out your old battered notebook. Inside, smeared across mud-streaked pages, is a sketch you made weeks ago from a fossil site half a continent away. A partial skull-elongated eye socket, strange ridging around the orbit. You thought it was just weathering at the time, but now you realize those were ducts, moisture ducts. Tiny glandular canals that may have fed water directly from reservoirs in the head, like internal eye sprinklers, a self-watering mechanism. Nature, folks, it always finds a way to terrify you efficiently. You scribble a note, sacrificed blink for clarity, gained pain, but saw everything. Because here's the dark trade-off. That kind of eye, that kind of tireless open attention, it costs. Even now you remember the creature's face-cracked skin around the socket, a rawness that looked permanent. Like the cost of vision wasn't just occasional discomfort, but constant suffering. Imagine the worst eye strain of your life. Now imagine living in it. Historians still debate whether this evolutionary path was a last resort adaptation or a calculated advantage. Some think these dinosaurs were pushed into this sensory corner by environmental pressures, low light, high risk, constant movement in the underbrush. Others argue it was psychological, the stare itself becoming a survival tool, a weaponized gaze. Either way, the result is clear. It never rests. Not truly, not safely. You shift on the rock. Something crunches beneath your boot, a small shell fossilized and half buried in loam. You pick it up, turn it over. Inside, calcified ridges glint like ancient silver. A turtle shell, maybe, or something older. Here's a fun detour. The tuatara, a lizard-like reptile from New Zealand, has a third eye. No, really. It's called the parietal eye, and it sits on top of its head under a thin layer of skin. It doesn't see like our eyes do, but it helps regulate circadian rhythm and light sensitivity. It's a remnant, a holdover from times when more eyes meant better odds. You wonder if the non-blinking dinosaur had a similar system, something invisible humming in the background, helping it track the passage of light. Did it ever want to rest? Did it even remember how the wind picks up? A low hum shivers through the trees. You stand shouldering your bag and move on. The trail narrows again, becoming less trail and more intention. You duck under a low branch, snagging your hair on a spine of bark. And then you see it. Another one, perched on a ridge silhouetted against the moon. Smaller, yes, but unmistakable. The rigid stance, the alert forward tilt. The glow of those godless eyes drinking in everything. But this one looks tired. It doesn't move as you approach, doesn't track you. You notice the crust around its sockets. Tiny featherless patches beneath the eyes, raw and irritated. And the worst part, the creature is blinking, not normal blinks. Fast, irregular, desperate. Each one a twitch of pain. It looks like someone who's been awake too long and is finally losing the war. You realize with a sick lurch, it's a juvenile. It hasn't mastered the stillness yet. It's learning not to blink, and failing. The stare isn't instinct. It's discipline, taught, rehearsed, which means they suffer to maintain it. You lower yourself into the grass, not wanting to threaten. The dinosaur shudders. Its eyes flick rapidly like they're betraying it. You whisper, "You don't have to kid." It doesn't understand, but something in your voice, maybe the softness, maybe the exhaustion you both now share, makes it pause. Its breathing steadies, and for a moment it lets its eyes close, just once, a long blink. Then it bolts, gone into the trees, and you're left blinking into the dark again, realizing that this wasn't a horror story. It was a sacrifice, an entire species choosing pain over ignorance. Attention over comfort, watching instead of dreaming. You blink because you can, and because now you kind of wish you couldn't. You're starting to pick up on something you didn't expect out here, an ecosystem that reacts to being watched. You walk deeper into the jungle, branches closing in like slow applause, and realize how many creatures spend their entire lives trying not to be seen. They blink, freeze, burrow, vanish into bark and leaf. And then there's the one that does the opposite. The one that survives by never looking away. The air's warmer here, thicker. You taste tannin and damp leaf pulp. Somewhere above, a large fruit falls and lands with a soggy slap. You pause, ears tuned, heart checking for predators. Nothing. Until a sudden flurry just ahead, a gallimimus bursts out from the ferns, all speed and panic, kicking up a wake of insects. You duck low, instinct flaring. And then, silence. You creep forward to where it came from, and there it is again. The dinosaur that doesn't blink. This one's larger than the others. Its chest rises slightly, breathing, but it does not move. Not even when the gallimimus nearly trampled it. It's positioned just off a narrow game trail, perfectly still, half-shadowed, in a way that could fool your brain into thinking it's part of the landscape. But now you know better. You know what it does. It stalks with presence alone. You stay perfectly still, not because you want to test it, but because you're beginning to understand how it works. It doesn't chase. It waits. The eye is its snare. And what a snare it is! That unblinking gaze cuts through every bush, every whisper, every flicker of movement. If you're a small animal, even a fast one, you see that face and instinct takes over. You run. And that's the whole point. It doesn't need to move to hunt. It makes you move first. There's a predator strategy called provoked flight. Some snakes and owls use it. They don't chase prey, they simply apply pressure by being visible, confident, undeniable. The prey panics, bolts, straight into a trap. That's what this dinosaur is doing. It forces its prey to reveal itself. The stare is a test. Fail it, and you're dead. There's a term from psychology you half remember from a podcast, the intolerable gaze. It's what happens when a person is observed too intensely, too continuously. It creates discomfort, shame, even fear. Our brains need the social rhythm of looking away. This animal doesn't play that game. Its whole body says, I see you, I see all of you, keep moving. You imagine the local prey species evolving with this kind of threat. You picture generations of mammals twitching under invisible pressure, evolving bigger ears, faster legs, not because they were chased, but because they were watched. And that changes things. Because this isn't just a predator, it's an environmental force, like gravity or guilt. Here's your odd fact for the night. The basilisk lizard, sometimes called the Jesus lizard, can run across water using sheer momentum and surface tension. But it does so almost always while being watched. Observers note that it rarely performs the trick when alone. Visibility triggers behavior. Maybe this dinosaur learned that too. Maybe it realized movement only happens when something feels seen. So it became the seer, a breathing spotlight. You take a slow step back, barely making a sound. Its eyes twitch just a hair, but it doesn't move. Behind it, a rustle. You freeze. A small mammal, a shrew-like thing with shaggy fur and bulging, terrified eyes, emerges from a hollow. It's trembling. You can see its rib cage flutter with every breath. It steps forward, looks at the dinosaur, freezes. You hold your breath. 1 second. 2. Then in a flash, the mammal bolts sideways into the open, and from the underbrush another dinosaur lunges. Not the unblinking one, a smaller, faster one. Same species, possibly. It strikes fast, no hesitation, snatching the prey mid-step. The stare wasn't a weapon. It was bait. Historians still debate whether this hunting tactic was social or symbiotic. Some suggested the still ones were older individuals too slow to chase but still valuable to the group. Others think it was a solo strategy, just one animal using psychological warfare. No consensus. But what you just saw, that was teamwork. You stare at the unblinking one again. It still hasn't moved. But you swear it looks just a little more satisfied now. And here's the most unsettling part. You're starting to respect it. Not just for surviving, for strategizing, for turning the passive into the aggressive, for making the act of seeing into a trap. You blink again. You can't help it. The predator still doesn't. You whisper, not expecting a reply. How long do you wait? It doesn't answer, but a leaf falls behind it, slow and golden in the fading light. And you know however long it takes, that's how long it waits. Because stillness isn't weakness here. Stillness is power. The jungle doesn't go dark all at once, it dims like an ancient theater. You can almost hear the soft rustle of curtains falling. Crickets begin to chirp in polite synchronized intervals. Frogs switch on. Somewhere in the trees, something yawns in an octave too low for your comfort. And then come the eyes. Not yours. Theirs. They start appearing after the sun gives up. Reflections in water, glints on bark, pinpricks in the dark canopy that could be dewdrops. Or watchers. And you're not paranoid. Not really. Because once you've seen one of them, those dinosaurs that never blink, your brain starts hunting for them in every shimmer, every hint of symmetry. You can't help it. Because now you know what they look like. You walk slowly. Not to be quiet, just to make fewer mistakes. The jungle at night is less forgiving. Roots reach for your ankles. Thorny plants lean closer, whispering, "Trip, I dare you," but you move on. And then you see it. A pair of glints in the gloom ahead, small, low to the ground. They shine like wet stones under moonlight, but they're not stones. They're eyes. You pause. Lean slightly to one side. They don't follow, just two fixed lights in the dark. Then another pair appears, higher, off to the right. Then a third, farther still. None of them blink. It's not a group, not really. More like scattered sentinels, or constellations that decided to watch you back. You remember a theory from a researcher you once interviewed, Dr. Giva Mafuk, paleobiologist with a mild allergy to subtlety. She had this idea that some dinosaurs evolved reflective eye layers like modern cats and crocodiles. Called the tapetum lucidum, this layer bounces light back through the retina, increasing night vision. In modern animals, it gives the eyes that ghostly green-blue glow at night. It's odd. But Dr. Murray proposes something else. She thought certain dinosaurs had eye structures that didn't just reflect moonlight, they refracted it, split it, amplified it. Not for better vision, but for manipulation, to create illusions. And now, standing here bathed in quiet moonlight and paranoia, you begin to understand what she meant. Because those eyes, they flicker, not with movement, but with your movement. You tilt your head, they scatter. You step sideways and they multiply. It's like they're not just watching, they're projecting. The air is clear, no mist, no tricks of fog. But still, something about the light feels wrong. It bends where it shouldn't. A nearby fern glows faintly as if moonlit from below. You turn toward it and there it is again. The dinosaur. Half shadow, half idea. Not fully present until you see it. And when you do, your breath leaves your lungs like a faulty balloon. It's just standing there, watching, not moving. Its eyes shine a dull silver now. Not white, not blue. Silver like the inside of a pearl. And the effect is immediate. Your body believes you're being stalked. Your shoulders tense. Your heart speeds up. But the dinosaur doesn't move. Because it doesn't have to. This is part of the hunt. Not chasing, not ambushing, distorting. You see two more glints just beyond it, then three. You blink, and now the number doubles. They aren't multiplying. You're just seeing them twice, maybe more. The refracted glints become false stars. The forest canopy above shimmers with ghost lights. The branches seem to hold blinking eyes, but none actually blink. They just shine, and shine, and shine. You step back, just once. And that's when you feel it right behind you. Heat, breath, no sound, no movement, but presence. Your chest freezes. Eyes dart left, then right, and slowly, so slowly, you turn your head. Nothing. No predator. just empty air. But you felt it. It's a trick, of course. A kind of light-based haunting. Your depth perception's failing. You corrupted by their gaze geometry. Those eyes are throwing shadows in the wrong direction. You're not even sure which way is forward anymore. You reach out to touch a tree. Miss. Try again. Miss again. Then, finally, bark. Real. Solid. Rough. You close your eyes and press your forehead to it, trying to ground yourself. The moment you do, the false lights vanish. You stay like that for a long time. Historians still debate whether these dinosaurs used their eye reflections intentionally, or whether this was just a fortunate accident of physiology. Were they manipulating prey like living disco balls of dread? Or were they merely misunderstood, their ghostly gaze a byproduct of exceptional night vision? No one knows. But now, here in the dark, you suspect the former. Because evolution doesn't reward coincidence. And fear is a tool. You open your eyes slowly. The lights are gone now. You move forward again, careful not to meet any more stares head-on. You glance sideways, downward. Let them look if they're still looking. You won't give them the satisfaction of reacting. That's the real lesson tonight, isn't it? These animals, these creatures of stillness and stare, they don't chase. They change you. One glance at a time. You reach a ridge, the jungle falling away into a shallow valley. Moonlight rolls in like mist. The wind lifts your hair. No eyes this time, just you. And your blinking, tired, mortal eyes. And a sky full of stars that aren't trying to kill you. Probably, you descend into the valley like someone entering a dream they're not sure they chose. The canopy thins here, the stars stretch their legs a little more, and the air becomes cooler, almost gentle. You let out a long breath you didn't know you were holding. It comes out ragged, like it had been waiting behind your teeth for miles. You blink again, not from discomfort this time, but habit. And that's when you wonder something peculiar. What happens if you stop? You crouch at the valley floor. There's no immediate threat here, no glints, no illusions, no audience. Just you in the pale light of stars that have already died. So as a totally rational and not at all cursed idea, you decide to try it. You stare. Not in challenge, in mimicry. You open your eyes wide and keep them open. 5 seconds. No big deal. 10. You feel the faint urge, the ghost of a blink. 20. It starts to burn. Dryness pools around your cornea like dust in a locked room. 30. Now your vision gets weird. The edges blur, colors fade. You blink. You fail. And that's when you hear it crunch. A soft sound. Delicate, not threatening, but close. You spin around half blinded, and there it is. A juvenile. Again. But this one is different from the last. Not twitching, not panicked. It's trying. Its eyes are red-rimmed. The skin around them is taut, as if pulled too tight across bone. Its body is thin, not starving, but honed. You can see the trembling in its legs, not from fear, but fatigue. The kind that comes from practicing something unnatural. It's teaching itself not to blink. You sit down slowly, gently. It watches you. You watch it. Minutes pass. You blink. It doesn't. Its eye twitches. Just slightly. But it wins. No lid. No membrane. Just the slow shimmer of the hydration ripple, again like someone dragging a spoon through oil. You begin to understand now. This isn't just instinct. This is culture. This behavior is passed on. Rehearsed. Practiced. You think about chimpanzees learning how to crack nuts with rocks. Crows learning to drop hard food from just the right height onto pavement. And here in the prehistoric dark, a species is perfecting stillness as a learned art form. And here's your odd historical fact of the night in some ancient Roman arenas. It wasn't just about who won the fight, it was about how still you could be when you lost. Gladiators were trained to die with a composed expression. No blinking, no fear. Dignity in the moment of death. You wonder if that's what this dinosaur is doing. Practicing for every moment to be its last. Or its first. You shift your weight and the young dinosaur flinches. A small blink, not with eyelids, but a tiny muscle jerk behind the eye. Its version of a flinch. You whisper, "It's okay." And here's the thing. You don't know if it understands, but it doesn't run. It steps closer, then closer again, and settles not far from you in the low grass. Its head remains upright, unmoving, the eyes stay wide, but you swear its breathing slows. This isn't predation, it's communion. Historians still debate whether this behavior emerged from a specific environmental pressure predators, too fast or prey too reactive. Some argue it was about mimicry by freezing the dinosaur avoided notice. Others suggest a form of dominance, a silent claim to space. But none of the theories cover what you're seeing now. Because this doesn't feel like survival. It feels like discipline, self-control as an evolutionary strategy. You close your eyes briefly just to rest. A few seconds. When you open them again, the juvenile is gone. No sound, no panic, just absence. And in its place, a small smear in the grass. Moisture from its eye. You lean forward and touch it with the back of your hand. Still warm, like a single tear. You sit back and exhale. You've stared into eyes that have seen more than yours ever will. Eyes that never shut, never sleep, never stop absorbing the world, no matter how painful or overwhelming. And now you feel it. Not fear, not awe. Aka. You wonder how many hours a day these creatures stand guard over nests, over mates, over nothing at all. Just watching. And if the cost is worth it. There's a theory in evolutionary biology called the cost-benefit threshold. Every adaptation, no matter how powerful, comes with a trade-off. The giraffe's long neck is great for reaching leaves, but it's hell on blood pressure. The peacock's tail is gorgeous, but it's basically an edible parade float. And these dinosaurs, they traded comfort for vigilance. Blinking gone. Dreaming gone. They see everything. And never stop. You stand up and stretch. Your eyes burn again, and this time, you let them. You want to remember what it costs. Because now you've learned something no textbook could have told you. This creature didn't survive because it was faster or stronger. It survived because it chose to pay attention. The wind shifts, and with it comes the scent of something sour. Not rot exactly, not death, but memory, like the ghost of sweat on dry feathers or rain hitting old bone. You follow it up a narrow ravine where vines hang low and still like they're listening. And maybe they are, because here even the plants seem to understand. Something is watching, and something is watched. You start noticing the pattern. The way the forest arranges itself around these creatures. You catch it in how trails curve. Unnaturally paths once straight, now subtly bend, not around rivers or cliffs but clearings. Dead, silent circles of space where nothing rests, nests, or feeds. Where everything leaves room. You crouch in one such clearing now, staring at the very edge. Nothing in the middle. Just open ground, still air. And a strange feeling in your throat like your instincts are trying to climb out and run ahead of you. You lean back against a tree and wait. And sure enough, after half an hour of stillness, a familiar shadow steps into the ring. It's the unblinking one. But this time, something's different. It's not alone. Two smaller creatures trail behind it. Not juveniles, not quite peers either. Their movements are more restless, more functional. They scan, they listen. One of them even scratches its jaw with the tip of a talon. You almost laugh. Even here, even now, someone's got an itch. But the unblinking one, same posture, same stare, same silence, and this time you get it. You're not watching a predator. You're watching a signal, a biological alarm. These creatures have evolved a living warning system. By refusing to blink, by refusing to look away, they send a message louder than any roar. There is danger here. I see it. I will not let it pass. And here's the twist, they're not warning prey. They're warning each other. The forest around them shifts in response. Smaller dinosaurs move in arcs that avoid the clearing. A bird-like shape hops along a branch, stops mid-hop, then retreats. You glance at the ground and notice scratch marks, tiny three-toed prints that always stop before reaching the unblinking one's perimeter. Everyone knows not to test the stare. You remember a story probably apocryphal about Viking berserkers. Not just wild warriors, but battlefield beacons. When they entered a fight, they didn't just attack. They stood motionless first, eyes wide, bodies trembling, waiting for fear to ripple outward like waves from a thrown stone. Their presence primed the conflict. That's what this is. The unblinking one is a totem, a lighthouse made of muscle and restraint. It doesn't act until it must. But by then, everyone already knows. Historians still debate whether this behavior was intentional or emergent. Did these dinosaurs know they were scaring everything around them? Or were they just good at surviving and the rest of the ecosystem adapted around their terrifying stare? Chicken or egg? Blink or die. You watch the trio a little longer. The two smaller ones move off, eventually melting into the trees like shadows on cue. But the central figure stays. Its head doesn't follow them. It doesn't acknowledge their departure. It just continues staring at nothing. Or maybe everything. And here's your odd science fact of the evening. Meerkats have sentinel behavior where one stands guard while the others forage. But here's the thing. Research shows the sentinel wants the job. It's not coerced. It actually gains status and affection from the group by being the one who watches. You wonder if it's the same here. Is the stare a burden or an honor? You blink. Your eyes sting again. Every time now feels more noticeable, more personal. You imagine what it would take to do what that creature does, to hold your gaze until the muscles in your face give up, until your tear ducts wither, until your own brain starts inventing colors just to keep from collapsing. It's devotion, not to a god, to awareness itself. You stand slowly. The unblinking one doesn't react. You are not its concern. Its signal is not for you. But still you raise a hand, a silent gesture. Not a wave, a salute. Because if that thing had eyelids, it would deserve to blink, but it never will. Because it knows something most animals forget. To look away is to risk, and it doesn't do risk. You follow the ridge until the trees thin out, and the ground turns hard beneath your feet, cracked ochre-colored clay, whispering of drought. The air is sharp now, dry enough to peel the back of your throat. Even the insects have vanished, their songs lost in the silence of sun-baked rock. This isn't jungle anymore. This is memory. The bones of a landscape that once pulsed with green. And that's when you see them, fossil beds. They're scattered across the slope like forgotten thoughts, half-exposed ribs, vertebrae curled like question marks, skulls cracked open like overripe fruit. A graveyard of creatures who blinked, who didn't stare hard enough, or perhaps who were simply seen too long. You kneel beside a broken skull, jawbone jutting out like it's still trying to explain how it died. It belonged to something fast, delicate bone structure, hollow vertebrae. A runner. Maybe it thought speed would save it. Spoiler, it didn't. You brush away a bit of dust from the eye socket. What you find makes your stomach lurch. There's no rim for an eyelid, no anchoring muscle points. No socket creases, just a raw, wide curve, too large, too open. A design meant to never close. And now finally you get it. These creatures didn't just evolve to not blink. They lost the ability altogether. By force, by time, by need. During one of Earth's ancient parched epochs, those cycles of dust and heat, when water was myth and shade was currency, blinking became a liability. Every time you shut your eyes, moisture evaporated faster than your body could replace it. So evolution made a bet. What if you never closed your eyes again? Historians still debate exactly when this transition happened. Some say it was during the mid-Cretaceous droughts, when atmospheric CO2 hit wild highs and inland seas dried up. Others argue for the later thermal pulses, when volcanoes poisoned the sky and dinosaurs had to adapt in real time to air that burned their lungs. But whatever the moment, it worked. The line that stared won, and the ones that blinked, you're looking at their bones now. You glance up. The horizon ahead wavers with heat. And in the distance, standing alone, tall as a human frozen mid-step, is another unblinking one. But this one is different. It's fossilized, caught forever in posture. The tail curves gently, the neck cranes slightly, the jaws parted in what might have been a final breath. The eyes, of course, are wide. You approach carefully, reverently. The fossil isn't a skeleton, it's a statue, preserved in fine volcanic ash details still intact. You can see the tiny feather filaments on its limbs, even the delicate muscle lines across its jaw. But it's the eyes that hold you. You look closer, and there in the fossilized orbit you spot concentric grooves rings carved around the inside of the eye socket, like tree rings or tide marks. Each one faint, almost imperceptible, but there, counting something. And here's your academic curveball of the night. Scientists recently discovered that the eyes of some prehistoric marine creatures recorded environmental data like tree rings. Oxygen isotopes trapped in growing eye layers told stories of droughts, seasons, even migrations. Some call them ocular archives. And what you're looking at, this fossil's eyes might be telling you something too. You trace the rings. They aren't even. Some are thick, some razor thin. One is jagged, interrupted, like something changed, a disruption. Maybe it blinked, once, and maybe that's what killed it. The idea sticks in your throat like a splinter. The notion that somewhere way back in time one of these creatures hesitated, allowed comfort, allowed rest, and paid the price. You sit with that a while, in the dry heat under a sky so wide it feels like an accusation. This species didn't just evolve to survive. It made a choice, to hurt less later by hurting more now, to give up the luxury of reprieve for the security of permanence. The cost, never blinking, never dreaming, never forgetting. You stand and walk on boots crunching dry shale with every step. Your eyes feel dry again. But now you don't blink. Not because you're mimicking, because you're mourning. The fossils stretch farther now, long bodies tangled in death poses. Some appear curled. Some look like they fell mid-stride. But none have eyelid structures. They died watching. And then here's your odd fact before night creeps back in. Some frogs survive drought by burrowing underground and forming a mucus cocoon. They sleep like that for years, their heart rate nearly zero until the rains return. These dinosaurs, they did the opposite. They stayed awake through the worst of it. They watched the rain leave and waited for it to come back. You reach the end of the ridge. Ahead the jungle begins again, green and breathing. But before you step forward, you turn. One last look at the stare that never flinched, even in death, even in stone. You slip back beneath the canopy. The transition from fossil valley to living jungle is like stepping out of a photograph and into the moment just before a scream. The air is thick again, stirred with bird clicks and distant tail thumps. Everything's in motion, but only around the edges. The center of the forest, as you've come to expect, remains still, which is where you find them. Two of them this time. Not fossilized, alive. Facing each other in a clearing so tense it could shatter glass. They don't move. Not even a tail twitch. They're locked in place like twin statues, mirror images in posture, breath, intent. Their eyes wide and shimmering meet, with a gaze so fixed you instinctively look away embarrassed, like you've just walked in on something private, intimate, ancient. You step into the shade and crouch low, hiding behind the roots of a kapok tree. They haven't noticed you. Or maybe they have and they've decided you don't matter. Because what's happening between them, it matters more. They are in what can only be called a mirror stare ritual, one of the strangest behavioral theories in paleontology. A debated fringe concept suggesting that some theropod species may have used staring contests to establish dominance without violence, like wolves posturing or roosters fluffing feathers. A way to resolve disputes without blood. You watch. 5 minutes pass. Nothing. 10. Still nothing. But it's not boring. It's agonizingly tense. Because this isn't just stillness, this is combat without motion. Their legs shake ever so slightly. The muscles along their necks tense, then relax. You spot a single feather drift from one shoulder. No one reacts. And then you feel it. Not sound, not sight, just pressure, like standing between magnets. Your own body is starting to twitch now. You fight the urge to blink even though you're not part of the duel. Your eyes water, your breath shallows. You blink, you look away. You lose. They're still going. Somewhere in the branches above, a group of pterosaurs watches in silence. Even the trees seem to lean outward, as if giving the duel its sacred space. You spot claw marks in the dirt around them, faint and circular. This has happened here before. You start to realize this might be how they decide everything. Territory. Mates. Who eats first? Who stays behind to guard? There are no roars, no strikes, just two minds pushing will against will until one cracks. It's a war of endurance. And here's a disturbing little human parallel in certain ancient cultures, like among some Native American tribes or Zulu warriors. Conflict was sometimes resolved through intense staring. The logic: only someone who had nothing to fear could hold a gaze. Maybe these dinosaurs came to the same conclusion. You blink again, hard. Not by choice. You rub your eyes, cursing the fact that you're not built for this. And that's when it happens. One of them shifts. Barely. Just a half step backward. The eyes never close, but something about its posture yields. Not in fear, not in shame, in acknowledgement. It has lost. The other remains locked in position for another minute, as if waiting to be sure. Then, almost imperceptibly, it relaxes. Not a smile, not a celebration, just a return to neutral. The ritual is over. The defeated one lowers its head, turns slowly, and walks away into the shadows. No chase, no punishment, just resolution. Historians still debate whether this behavior was ritualized communication or something deeper, an expression of hierarchy embedded into their biology. Was it hardwired, or did they learn to do this? You suspect both, because this doesn't feel like instinct alone. It feels like agreement. And here's your odd fact for this particular moment of eye-strained reverence. Certain fish species, like Siamese fighting fish, engage in extended mirror battles, puffing their bodies and flaring gills at their own reflection for hours, convinced they are facing another. It's all about presence, the illusion of control. But what you've seen, there was no illusion, only choice. The victor now turns slow regal, and you see its face fully. There's something raw about it. Not wounded, just stretched thin. The kind of tension that comes from being seen and not looking away. You feel honored almost that it glances in your direction at all. It doesn't stop. It doesn't blink. It disappears into the trees like a curtain falling. And you're left alone again, eyes burning, heart pounding, and not entirely sure what you just witnessed. Conflict, courtship, ceremony, or maybe something simpler. Two beings proving in the oldest way possible that they still could. You're walking again, though. If you're honest, it feels more like gliding now, like the ground has stopped resisting you. Or maybe your body's just given up on warning you. You're not sure how long it's been since you saw the last one. Time has gone thin, like soup stretched too far. And then you feel it. Panic. But it's not yours. It comes through the underbrush and shivers. Small mammals fleeing, birds lifting into the canopy without calling out. Even the insects seem to evacuate mid-air, abandoning their bites and buzzes for silence. You stop, turn slowly, and catch a glimpse of something. A shape moving behind the ferns. No sound, no light, just the silhouette. Tall, still, too still. It's the same species, you know it instantly. But now you're seeing it from a new angle, a silhouette framed in half light. The kind of shape that doesn't just imply danger. It summons it. And that's when it hits you. Even when this thing isn't watching, when it's just standing there, it triggers something. Something deep. Even animals that aren't hunted by it directly, they still run. Why? You hunker low behind a log, watching as a group of hadrosaur juveniles break into a panic sprint for no reason you can see. No roar, no movement, just the presence of that unmoving shadow. Their eyes are wide. Their feet pound the earth in clumsy bursts. One of them trips, recovers, and keeps going without looking back. You see it again 10 minutes later. A flock of primitive birds burst out of a tree line startled by nothing. You look in the direction they came from, and there it is. The shape, the gaze, not even moving, just existing. It's become a signal, not just to prey, but to the entire ecosystem. That shape means leave. That silhouette means don't test it. There's a psychological term for this evolutionary memory. The idea that certain fears or reflexes are inherited over generations, not because of learning, but because of survival. Like how most humans jump at spider shapes even if they've never been bitten, or why shadows at the corner of your eye make your heart skip. It's not logic, it's legacy. Historians still debate the extent of these behaviors in non-human species. Some suggest that mammals carry emotional scars from predator shapes encoded into their brains through thousands of years of run-or-die decisions. Others argue that these are just overreactions, paranoia, dressed up as instinct. But you're watching it play out in real time now. Prey don't run from this dinosaur. They run before it even sees them. Because its shape is enough. That's power. That's reach. And here's tonight's delightfully unsettling oddity. Researchers once trained monkeys to fear snakes by showing them videos of other monkeys reacting to snakes. Within minutes, the untrained monkeys began showing the same fear responses. Not because they'd seen a snake, but because they'd seen someone else panic. Fear is viral. And this predator, it doesn't even have to hunt anymore. It just has to be seen. You stay low wondering what it must feel like to be that feared. Not for your actions, but for your outline. And then you realize you felt that before. Not as a predator, as a human. You remember stories of people avoiding certain houses, streets, or even people just based on shapewalk stillness. No crime committed, no evidence needed. Just the impression of threat. The suggestion of menace. Maybe that's what this is. The dinosaur becomes a symbol, a walking don't. And it works. Everything avoids it. Even you, for a moment, feel your feet shifting backward on instinct. But you hold still. Because you want to understand it. You want to witness. The creature eventually turns, moves off, doesn't hurry, doesn't hide. Just glides into the gloom, its shape bending behind tree trunks like a ghost refusing to vanish. You exhale, and then oddly you smile. Because what you're realizing now is that this animal didn't just survive by seeing, it survived by being seen. Deliberately, it wants to be a shape in the mind. It wants to be remembered. It is both hunter and rumor, predator and phobia. You rise, brushing dirt from your legs. The panic has passed, the mammals are gone. The forest resets. But that shape lingers in your head, just like it's meant to. You wake to darkness, not the kind that comes from nightfall, but the kind that presses gently against your eyeballs and tells you you've been asleep too long. You're curled beneath a rock overhang wrapped in sweat, and a half-conscious dream about reflections that didn't belong to mirrors. You sit up, and you see it. Not far, maybe 30 feet away, is a body, not a living one. A fossil, freshly unearthed. Its face turned to the sky like it had something left to say. You move closer, instinctually quiet. It's not like the others. This one is preserved, not just in shape but in texture. The soft tissue fossilized, mummified, frozen in time with such exquisite detail, it could have been asleep. You kneel beside it and stare into its face. The eye socket is intact, but what's inside it is what stops you. A fossilized eye, still there, still shaped like a globe, the layers mineralized like crystal. You can see the rings, those faint concentric circles that shouldn't be possible. They glint faintly in the ambient starlight. A tiny opal of history. You lean in, and there they are, retinal rings, clear as day, faint grooves etched through time. A few wide, some razor-thin, one curled like a spiral where the growth faltered, then resumed. They resemble tree rings, but smaller, tighter, each one a whisper of seasonal change. You count them. More than 80 ADD growth cycles. Years. Maybe. Or something else. These aren't growth rings from aging. These are records of conditions. You take out your notebook, hands trembling. Because what you're looking at is nothing short of a prehistoric weather diary. And here's your nerdy science fact. In 2018, researchers discovered that certain fish and reptiles deposit isotopes in their eye lenses over time, recording chemical changes from diet, temperature, and even drought. In theory, you could read a creature's life through its eyes like geological strata. What you're staring at, it's that theory fossilized. You scan the lines again. The outer rings are rough, jagged, gritty, drought years maybe, dust-filled skies, hunger. Then a smoother band, thicker, lusher, and then right in the middle a warped, shuttered groove that almost cuts across everything. A cataclysm. You don't know what it was. A firestorm, an atmospheric collapse, something sudden, something that changed everything. And then the rings go back to normal, but never quite the same. You sit back, notebooking on your lap, brain buzzing. This dinosaur didn't just refuse to blink. It recorded everything it saw. Through biology, through suffering, through time. And you wonder, was this intentional? Was this an evolutionary accident? Or did nature design a creature to witness history? Historians still debate the role of eye-based sensory processing in prehistoric species. Some argue vision was passive, a way to gather information. Others suggest active recording, similar to migratory species today who navigate by star patterns burned into their retinas over generations. But this isn't navigation. This is testimony. You touch the edge of the eye gently. It's cool, smooth, like a stone holding a secret. And here's your odd, unrelated human parallel. There's a cathedral in Italy with a stained glass window that's over 700 years old. It survived fires, earthquakes, even a war. But here's the part that gets people inside the glass. Tiny imperfections have moved, shifted. Over time, the glass has flowed ever so slightly, like liquid frozen mid-slow motion. It's been watching, too. You sit beside the fossil for hours sketching. Not just lines, but the feel of them. The way the creature's skull curves around the eyes. The way the skin folds, stretch outward like sun-bleached parchment. You wonder how many others are buried out here. How many unblinking fossils lie just beneath the surface, recording what the air felt like, what the sky looked like, what the earth smelled like when the rains didn't come. You imagine a future paleontologist standing over your own skeleton, pulling your cornea from fossilized flesh and counting rings of exhaustion, rings of caffeine, rings of screen glare. Because what are we really if not bundles of perception stacked on top of each other? The wind picks up. It sounds like breath moving through old corridors. You pack your things. But before you leave, you whisper a thank you to the fossil for watching, for remembering, for not blinking. Because now you understand what it means to carry time inside your face. You've stopped trying to keep your eyes moist. There's no point. They sting, they blur, they ache, but you don't reach for relief. Not anymore. Because now you know what it means to look without pause, to refuse the comfort of darkness. The unblinking ones taught you that. And somewhere along this trail of ruins, fossils, and echoes, you've begun to see through their world. That's how you spot it. Half buried in the underbrush, a stone. No, not a stone. You crouch down, pushed aside a curtain of ferns, and there it is. Another one. Alive. But you don't see its shape first. You see nothing. Because your brain edits it out. Your mind assumes it's just a chunk of rock. Because it's too still. You stare. The form is nestled perfectly into the slope, ribs rising ever so faintly with breath. Limbs folded under the body. Head resting on forearms. Eyes wide, motionless. A boulder with pupils. It has become the landscape, and you were 2 steps from passing it by. You lean closer, carefully. Its pupils track you, slow, lazy, like moving a spoon through thick soup. But the body doesn't move. It's in full ambush posture, a shape that doesn't blink, a shadow that doesn't need motion. And that's when you realize the horrible truth. You could have stepped on it and never known. There's a hunting strategy among some modern reptiles called behavioral crypsis. It's not camouflage, it's acting like something else. Crocodiles do it. So do some lizards. They don't blend in with foliage, they become a rock, a log, a patch of dirt. And here now, crouched in the ancient hush, you're staring at the prehistoric master of it. This isn't just patience, this is performance. You watch a small mammal no bigger than your hand scuttle past the creature's flank. It doesn't notice, doesn't flinch. It pauses, sniffing the air, then moves again. Straight toward the predator's front. You lean forward. Don't. But it does. And just as the mammal steps into the strike zone, nothing. The dinosaur doesn't move. You're stunned. Why didn't it strike? Why let it go? You whisper more to yourself than to the forest. What are you waiting for? And then it hits you. It wasn't hunting the mammal. It was hunting you. Not for food, not for sport, but for the test. To see if you could spot it. If you were part of the system or just another blind animal stumbling through it. You failed. Only by luck did you catch it before it moved. And if you hadn't, well, you wouldn't be blinking anymore either. You sit down slowly. The creature remains still. The jungle wraps itself around the moment. And here's your odd, uncomfortable fact of the day in medieval Japan. Assassins known as shinobi, trained to slow their heart rate and breathing so completely they could hide in open view disguised as statues, rocks, even furniture. Some accounts say they could go hours without twitching. This dinosaur, it makes them look chatty. Historians still debate whether this species relied solely on stealth or if it evolved it as a last resort. Perhaps these ambush behaviors emerged when food grew scarce, when chasing became too costly. Maybe they became ambush artists out of desperation. Or maybe, as some fringe paleontologists propose, it was always this way. This creature wasn't made to run. It was made to wait, to become the absence in the room, to become the thing you didn't see coming. You stand slowly. You give it a wide berth. You don't look into its eyes this time, because now you understand the difference. The stare from afar, that's dominance. The stare up close, that's a warning. You blink twice fast, then turn away. The creature doesn't move, doesn't need to. You move forward deeper into the woods, and for the first time in days, you feel the wrongness of your own blinking. Each one a lapse, each one a weakness, each one an opening. Because in this forest, the most dangerous thing you can do is shut your eyes, even for a second. The night thickens, but you don't stop. Can't. Every part of your body wants to rest, to fold in on itself like a tired bat, but the thought of sleep, it doesn't feel safe anymore. Not because of dreams, because of what sleep requires. To sleep is to let go, to surrender the eyes. And here that feels like a risk you can't afford. You stumble into a grove where the air tastes different, cooler, coppery, tinged with moss and damp stone. You crouch under a low arch of roots and freeze. Because you're not alone. It's there. Not one of the juveniles, not a fossil. The same one. You know it, you feel it. The original stare. The one from the clearing. It's lying flat, partially curled beneath a natural alcove framed by rock and thyme and ferns that seem too respectful to touch it. But it's not dead. You can see its sides rise and fall. Slowly, rhythmically. It's sleeping, but its eyes are open. And suddenly the final puzzle piece clicks into place. You inch forward, stomach low to the earth. Just enough to watch. Just enough to witness. The creature breathes in, breathes out. Its pupils do not dilate. Its head does not twitch. It is asleep, but still watching. Sleep with your eyes open. Humans say that like it's an exaggeration. A metaphor. But for this dinosaur, it's biology. An act of survival so refined that the body found a way to rest without ever looking away. And here's the kicker. This isn't REM sleep. There are no dreams behind those eyes, no flickers of thought. This is microsleep. Your fun fact of the evening: some animals like dolphins and certain birds sleep with half their brain at a time. Unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. One hemisphere rests, the other remains alert. Eye-open vision. Active danger monitored. This dinosaur, it's doing that. Except more. You suspect both hemispheres are resting in short pulses back and forth, invisible to the outside world. A mechanical relay of exhaustion. Never enough to truly escape, but just enough to endure. You're watching something that rejects unconsciousness. And that's when you notice something terrifying. Its gaze is tracking you. Not fully, just slightly, enough to confirm it's aware. That even in its lightless sleep it knows. Historians still debate whether such behavior was exclusive to certain environmental conditions. Some argue it was drought times when sleep could mean dehydration, so evolution eliminated the risk. Others point to predator pressure, suggesting this species became the top hunter by never being vulnerable. But some believe it went deeper, that these animals reached a point where sleep wasn't removed, it was replaced. The cost: no dreams, no forgetting, no soft drift into darkness, only watchfulness, only continuity, only the eternal real of everything that is and never what could be. You sit for what might be an hour. The creature never moves. The night sways gently around you, moths brushing past like fragile thoughts. Somewhere in the distance, a waterfall hums a lullaby you're not allowed to follow. You rub your eyes. They hurt. Not just from dryness, from sympathy. How many days, weeks, months has this creature refused itself? You imagine a life where you never fully shut down. No reset. Just wakefulness strung together like beads on a necklace of tension. No wonder it's always still. Stillness isn't rest. Stillness is the price of alertness. You feel something close to grief. For it. For yourself. For all the things that require sleep to make sense. But here's your odd human parallel for the hour in 1964. A high school student named Randy Gardner stayed awake for 11 days straight as a science experiment. By day 5, he was hallucinating. By day 9, he thought he was a famous football player. After the 11th day, he collapsed into 14 hours of sleep. And yet, when doctors scanned his brain during those final hours, they found evidence of microsleeps. His brain had been switching off without his consent. He hadn't escaped sleep. Sleep had escaped into him. But the dinosaur in front of you, it's not twitching, not muttering, not dreaming it's a football player. It's still. Its brain accepts this, lives in it. And suddenly, you're not sure if that's heroic or tragic. You finally stand quiet as breath. Its eye shifts only slightly, still watching, always watching, but not waking. You back away, one slow step at a time, then turn and walk into the jungle's deeper dark. Your eyes sting again. You blink. It doesn't. You dream. It refuses to. Dawn rises like a whisper. You can't quite remember how to answer. The first light slips between the canopy and pale threads brushing over bark and fur and the backs of your hands. You're tired. Not just tired, worn. Your eyes burn in that familiar way now, like they're being polished from the inside by dust and regret. But you're close. You feel it. The jungle gives way to a clearing you somehow recognize even though you've never stood here before. Maybe because it's so still. Maybe because every step you've taken so far has led here with all the weight of inevitability and none of the comfort. You walk in, and it's waiting. The unblinking one. The first one. Same shape, same size. But something's different now. Its body is rigid, too rigid. The feathers around its eyes hang slack, unkempt. Its mouth is slightly open like it tried to say something just before losing the ability to care. But the eyes, still open, still wide. Still watching. You step closer, there's no reaction, no twitch, no breath. It's not breathing. It died. And it didn't blink. Even in death, it refused to close its eyes. You sit beside it. You don't touch it. That would feel wrong. This isn't just a body, it's a monument. To discipline, to vigilance, to the long, aching decision to never stop seeing. Historians still debate whether some animals evolve into symbols or if symbols are something we project onto animals. The stare, the stillness, was it part of a ritualized instinct? Or was this species truly trying to be remembered? But what you're seeing now doesn't feel like theory. It feels like finality. A choice made so many generations ago that even death became part of the performance. Because here in this exact moment you finally understand, it didn't just forget how to blink. It didn't lose the muscles. It let them go. On purpose. You lean in looking close. The eye is glazed now, slightly clouded, but open. The optic nerves long gone, but its shape still speaks. It says I was here. It says I saw it all. It says I did not look away. You feel your own eyelids flutter. Not from fatigue, from shame. You blink because you must. Because you still have the luxury of not seeing everything. You reach out and close your hand over a clump of earth beside it. Not a gesture of grief, just something to ground you, to let you share the moment without collapsing under it. A soft sound behind you. You turn slowly. Another one, younger, smaller, standing at the edge of the clearing, not moving, just watching. It looks from the body to you and back again. And it doesn't blink either. You bow your head. It doesn't. It steps forward. Not in grief, not in fear, in acknowledgement. Then turns and disappears. You don't follow, because this is the end. Not of the species, not of the stare, but of this stare, this individual, the one who watched the world burn and grow and die and return and never once took its eyes off the story. You rest your hand on the ground beside it. The light rises. You blink once and then turn your back. You walk away, leaving it exactly as it lived, unmoved, unflinching, unblinking. Even now, even then, even in the shadow of the ages,